Other people are injured following a dawn landslide in Limuru. The landslide that occurred in Magina village saw a family of 6 swept away. Our reporter Wilkista Nyabwa is at the scene and joins us on phone. Wilkista, if you can hear me, what more can you tell us about the incident and the casualties?
Good afternoon, Joker. Now, it would appear that yesterday at around 11 o'clock in the night, there was a landslide in Magina village, which is somewhere near Kijabe, and a house was buried beneath the mud. Now, in this house, there were 5 people, and 3 of them were children, and the children were buried, and they were pulled out, they were dead. But the parents survived. They were in a different room at the time when the incident occurred, and they had survived the incident. It is also important to note Red Cross officials who were at the scene telling us that this same family had suffered at an earlier time when another landslide occurred, and that they had only recently reconstructed their house when this latest incident occurred.
In the same area, Wilkista?
Exactly the same area. They simply moved their house a few meters away and reconstructed it, and they had only moved in. You could see that the iron sheets were new, you could see new materials, and they had only recently moved back in, and therefore now we are seeing that they have suffered yet another incident.
From the scene, the people who live around this family, are they affected or are they at risk of being affected by this landslide?
The area where this incident occurred, it is on a slope, and therefore residents, even as we arrived today, the area MP had arrived, he had addressed the residents, and area residents were actually moving. They were moving to higher ground, and they're actually trying to find a long-term solution, because they say that every time it rains, they're faced with the challenge, they are faced with the problem of a landslide, the threat of a landslide.
And the ones who have been affected, I believe the parents, are they in hospital?
The parents are actually, it was a twist of events. They escaped unhurt, but now they are trying to figure out what is going to happen to them, because they definitely cannot continue to live in that house, apart from the fact that a portion of it has been buried beneath. They also cannot continue to live in the area because they are under threat. And what they're basically doing, neighbors are helping them move to find a temporary abode as they figure out what they will be doing next.
Thank you very much. Wilkista Nyabwa coming to us live from Magina village in Limuru, where 3 children died early this morning following a landslide. We'll keep you updated with that story as soon as we get it in our newsroom. Moving on, residents of Mathare 3C area in Nairobi are living in constant fear of daily attacks from a group of criminals who freely roam the sprawling slum when dusk falls. According to residents, inadequate police presence and patrols has provided opportunity for the criminals to terrorize residents at will. This week alone, 10 residents of Mathare 3C were brutally assaulted with crude weapons by unknown assailants. And as Patrick Amimo reports, residents are calling on the police to reintroduce regular patrols in the slum area and arrest criminals.
Nicholas Musau is nursing wounds after he fell victim of a criminal gang that is said to roam Mathare 3C area under the cover of darkness.
Tulikuwa mwendo wa saa 3 usiku. Ndivyo niliona kikundi cha watu, nikafikiria ni security yetu. Kumbe na waizi.
He says the group attacked him with an assortment of crude weapons. The attackers did not steal anything from him. On that same night, almost 10 other residents of the slum were brutally attacked by the criminal gang, which is said to number between 20 to 30 people.
Serikali wanaingia mchana na usiku haonekani. Je, serikali tunafanya kazi namna gani?
An observatory report on crime in Nairobi has isolated crime hotspots in the city and its environs. In Starehe and Mathare, areas such as Ngara, Kariako, Mlango Kubwa, Number 10, Huruma, Kiamaiko, Mathare's Nigeria, Juja Road, Oil Libya, also known as BH, Mathare 3C, Kosovo at the CDF toilet, a public toilet in Village 2 and Budhia in Huruma have been mapped as notorious spots for crimes such as rape, muggings, robbery, theft, drug peddling and gun peddling. Criminals in these areas normally start operations as soon as police wind up their night patrols before midnight. Residents also fear to report major crimes to police, since some police officers collude with the criminals and often disclose identity of those who report them.
The problem with the populace or the local people is that they don't give information, and they give information very late, if at all, or they don't even turn to tell us what might be happening or has happened at all.
Residents say there are days when police presence is high, but unfortunately, they suspect police only come to collect protection fee from criminals. In Starehe, police go to Huruma on Wednesdays, Pangani on Fridays and Mathare on Mondays to collect protection fees. This does not only fuel crime, but also hinders efforts to report the criminals to the same police officers. An observatory crime report in Nairobi released last year states that some police officers give criminals monthly financial targets, failure to which they are executed. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
Now, over 50 homes are submerged in floodwaters in Lailuba, Tigania East after substandard road construction led to a seasonal river losing its course and flooding the area. The residents are accusing the company which has been constructing the Muriri-Isiolo road of doing shoddy work while laying drainage system diverting the course of a seasonal river into homes and farms instead of away from them. Angry residents barricaded the road in protest before they were dispersed by police officers after the floods destroyed crops and left others in the cold as their houses were submerged. The area chief John Mamira says the culvert used at the point where the seasonal river crosses the road was not laid to standards, blocking the floods from crossing the road. He called on those affected to move from flooded zones and seek refuge from neighbors until the waters subside. Muthara County Representative Edward Kobia is calling on the contractors to heed to the calls to redesign the drainage system to avoid future flooding. The British High Commissioner to Kenya, Christian Turner, says the cordial relationship enjoyed between Kenya and Britain will boost regional security, tourism and development between the two countries. Speaking in Isiolo County, where he led a team of British Army accompanied by their Kenyan counterparts, the Kenya Defence Forces, in a free medical camp, Turner said that Kenya is a valued partner and Britain will continue to foster the good ties. At least 2,500 locals were treated in what the forces described as giving back to the society.
The expansive arid areas of Laikipia, Isiolo and Samburu counties have continued to offer ample training grounds for Kenya Defence Forces and the British Army. But on this day, the security teams were not here for training. The British Army, led by the British High Commissioner Christian Turner, and the Kenya Defence Forces, led by Chief Medical Services Officer Colonel David Bender, saw over 2,500 patients attended to in 13 pre-medical camps in Isiolo, a sign of the continued cordial relationship despite a new government taking office.
I've lived with the military for a long time. We like to give back to the community. It's a traditional training area for us and for also the British Army.
The ties between our two countries are strong, they are deep, they are historic. They cover great areas of our life. They are about security, yes. They are about development assistance. They're about tourists. We have 200,000 visitors going to each other's country every year. That deep history. They're about regional security.
During the medical camp, the medic soldiers discovered the dental problems were very high. Other diseases that recorded highly in the camps were fungal infections, worms and cataracts, a situation that is compounded by the use of traditional herbs to treat all ailments, even those that are incurable using such methods.
Hii hospitali tunasajili sisi tunaenda kutoa misisi ya miti tunatumia hiyo.
The British envoy emphasized that the development of the health sector was a partnership aimed at boosting the Kenya-UK ties.
We are just talking here about some of the work of the Kenyan infantry, the KDF, in Somalia. Of course, Britain was the first country to support.
The British Army and Kenya Defence Forces have also been involved in several infrastructure development projects in the region.
The police traffic department has begun a crackdown on drivers and vehicles flouting traffic rules along the Mai Mahiu-Narok highway. Led by the Chief Inspector of Road Safety, James Kipugi, the team patrolled the highway and arrested several vehicles disobeying traffic rules. Kipugi says the crackdown will continue until sanity is restored on the highway and drivers adhere to the highway code in a bid to reduce the number of accidents. The Mai Mahiu-Narok road has been marked as a black spot with many accidents being reported on the highway. Among those arrested were drivers found speeding, overlapping and overtaking on the wrong sides. Government vehicles were also among those flouting the set highway and traffic rules. The crackdown has drawn mixed reactions, with others welcoming the move, saying it will help reduce carnage on our roads.
This road has been having so many accidents, as you can see from the police station there. And
to matters environment now, the Kenya Wildlife Service Director William Kiprono has decried the rise in poaching in Africa, which targets mainly elephants and rhinos. Speaking during a graduation ceremony at the Kenya Wildlife Service Training Institute, Kiprono said the African continent lost over 25,000 elephants to poachers in 2012, and there are fears that the number could rise. The director also adds that the tourism sector could be affected adversely if the continent does not put in place stringent measures to deal with the virus.
The elephant, whatever, ivory is just like your teeth. So I'm imagining when they are through with the elephants, then they'll go for people's teeth. So the problem is that we'll be finding human beings without teeth because they'll have cleared the so-called elephant. The only advantage we have as Africa is wildlife, which is supporting tourism. In Kenya, last year we managed to get 95 billion out of tourism. Out of that, 70% of that 25 billion comes out because of wildlife tourism that people come and see.
As the country awaits the National Assembly to vet the cabinet nominees, the public is already on the vetting case, and already some nominees are being faulted for their past deeds. Among them is Professor Jacob Kaimenyi, nominated for the post of Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Education. The yet-to-be-registered Medical Services Consumers Association of Kenya claims the professor failed to show effectiveness when he was serving as the member of the Medical Practitioners and Dentists Board. National Chairman of the board, Anthony Mwangi, says that they will be presenting evidence of cover-ups of medical negligence during Kaimenyi's tenure at the board in a bid to overturn his nomination.
His inability to bring about reforms as a member of the Medical Practitioners and Dentists Board, and his inability to lead in cleaning the roads and the Medical Practitioners and Dentists Board itself points to a character or to a person who is stuck in the old way of doing things. And therefore, his appointment to the education docket clearly tells the status quo will remain. I therefore urge all parliamentarians and all Kenyans of goodwill to come up together and oppose the appointment of Professor Jacob Kaimenyi, because Professor cannot deliver change in this country.
And still on matters cabinet, and last night the Deputy President William Ruto gave his first live television interview since taking office right here on KTN, and he tackled various issues ranging from the Jubilee promises to the composition of their new look cabinet and how they settled on the nominees. He is part of that interview.
There are two choices that have been very controversial. I mean, a day before this announcement came, you assured the country that there would be only two politicians, yourself and President Uhuru Kenyatta. And then suddenly, at the end of this announcement, Najib Balala, Charity Ngilu. How did that happen?
First, let me tell you, Joe, and tell every Kenyan that Charity Ngilu and Najib Balala were with us on the campaign trail, as were many other of our friends. When the elections were over, became necessary for us to do stock taking on who we had. And Najib Balala and Charity Ngilu went out of their way. They too, aside from standing with us all the way during the election process and making very difficult choices to work with us, they too have a track record. I think Charity Ngilu did very well when he was Minister for Water and Minister for Health. Najib Balala as well in the Ministries of Tourism. And therefore, they were always in our plan. But the one thing that we did with the President is to agree with them that going forward, they will not be in the cabinet as politicians. They will be in the cabinet as cabinet secretaries, discharging their responsibilities beyond party, community, region.
But wasn't there an agreement that was signed, and there was talk of 50-50, isn't it? What was that about?
Let me give you a bit of history, Joe. We signed the agreement to give comfort to my supporters and the President's supporters. Between me and the President, we didn't need an agreement. Take it from me. And that's even where we began. Because we said, between me and you, Mr. President, we don't need an agreement. But that is William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta. The other people, don't have the same chemistry and understanding and friendship like the way the individuals are. And because this thing goes beyond the individuals, it goes to parties, it goes to other people. It was necessary to do the agreement.
Deputy President William Samoei Ruto talking to KTN Managing News Editor Joe Ageo last night. And if you missed that whole interview, you can go to our website. That's www.standardmedia.co.ke/KTN Live. And we are not letting go of William yet. Call it the Obama influence, or was it just a coincidence? Dress code, the recent show by President Uhuru Kenyatta, or how his deputy William Ruto used to call him Man UK. It was all about the style he used in announcing the cabinet nominees. We picked out a few from the event and reactions from Kenyans on the announcement. We call it Siasa Remix. Up next.
Na kama unataka kufanya kazi, ni mzuri kutoa kote alafu na kuwa fresh.
Vile tumesema sana tutafanya kazi na wote.
Na wanajua itariaki na wananchi na vijana.
Mr. Masharia is also a qualified CPA.
It is important to note that he has absolutely no work experience in the health sector.
We will let you know in due course. And
I look forward to working with you and with the rest of the cabinet in defending Kenya.
We, the indigenous of Kisumu, and as well the entire Nyanza, we appreciate what President Uhuru has done, as well the deputy.
These men and women are not politicians.
Our final nominee for today is Najib Balala, the Honorable Charity Ngilu.
Tunahitaji wale ambao hawakukataliwa ni wananchi ndio wapewe wadhifa wa kuweza kutufanyia kazi katika hii Kenya.
In the cabinet there will be only two politicians, the president and myself.
But they have brought to us partisan politicians. Some of them are very questionable past in ministries.
Thank you very much. Asanteni sana. Karibuni chai. Mtaki chai.
I think I'll not go for chai. I'll go for a glass of water before we take a break. You're watching KTN Live at 1 with me, Eric Njoka. See you back in a short moment.
Faulu na akiba.
the greatest good we can do for others is not just to share our riches with them, but to reveal theirs. Akiba ni hekima.
Pesa zetu ziko poa.
Tena sana.